Stablecoins are coming to Bitcoin. What does this mean? Will Bitcoin pump? Will the network grow? We're going to talk about that and much, much more on today's episode of Sensei to Crypto. Welcome. My name is David. I'll be one of your co-hosts, and today, like every single weekday, we're coming at you live from our beautiful studio here in Las Vegas, Nevada. On today's show, along with speaking about Bitcoin's new upgrade to include stablecoin, potentially DeFi, smart contracts, and all the above, we're also going to discuss Jerome Powell spoke today. Can we expect rate cuts maybe this year? We'll discuss that. Also, we're going to talk about a new lawsuit filed in the state of New York against Genesis, Gemini, and Digital Currency Group. What does this mean for Grayscale's conversion? And is the timing just a coincidence? On today's show, I am joined by my bestie, Forrest. How you doing, Forrest?
What's up? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, man. Thanks for joining us. Rob, he was needed a day off, so we gave him a day off. So you got me and Forrest today. We're excited. You know, I was going through, obviously, I stay on Twitter. I stay on Crypto Panic. I'm constantly doing research. By the way, I got your new research paper in my inbox today. Good freaking stuff, man. That was some incredible stuff. So big thank you there. And I'm just looking, I'm like, you just see the same news storylines, just worded differently, different headline, throw it up in there. You open up the news, you read the same thing, or it's just ChatGPT said XRP is going to be this much by the end of the year. It's dumb. And so I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, you know, how do we make sure our people, our community still gets an amazing show? And even on days, guys, where there's not a lot of good news, you are still going to get an amazing show. And today is going to be one of those. Before we get into any of the content, I do want to give thank yous to our channel sponsors. Cam's Blue Wire Technology. Today's 4K stream is brought to you by them. If you guys have been with our channel for a long time, you know we were having some network issues as we're transitioning from regular coax to fiber. And man, if it wasn't for Cams and that entire team, we probably wouldn't be able to stream the way we're streaming. And who knows if we would have even been able to stream at the quality level that we're doing right now. So big thank you to them. If you guys want to learn more about how they can help your business, visit bluewiretech.com. Also, big thank you to Radix, the top layer 1 DeFi in our space. They are a channel sponsor as well. If you want to learn more about their ecosystem, what their roadmap entails, their team, their projects, the dApps, the wallets, anything, visit radixdlt.com. Or there's a link in the description of this video. Forrest, Adam Lyon said, don't be bearish today, Forrest, please. He said, please, Forrest. He said, please. You know what's funny?
What? Don't be bearish today? Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
I want...
Look, as long as we're talking about Solana, what's there to be bearish about?
I want to, because, you know, I see people make comments about that, about you, Forrest. I see the same thing about Garrett Soloway. See the same thing about some other people. I want people to understand you can respect, even if you don't agree with someone's opinion or outlook. The last thing you want to do is be in an echo chamber of where you're constantly getting information fed to you that just confirms your personal bias, right? You're never going to be a well-rounded investor, a well-rounded trader, if all you pay attention to and listen to is stuff you want to hear. It's important to hear from the other side as well. That is why I follow on our page people that are non-crypto, that publicly despise crypto, that speak out against crypto, because I want to know what the other side is saying. I want to see their point of view. So when I sit there and have a discussion with these people, I can understand. It should be the same thing for you guys. Just because you don't agree with Forrest's outlook or Garrett's outlook or even mine doesn't mean that their opinion doesn't matter. In fact, it should matter just a little bit more so you can make sure you're a well-rounded investor. But we are going to talk about Solana. That thing is pumping to almost, what is it, almost $25. And we'll talk about that.
26 today.
How much? 26?
It's like 25.68. It hit our resistance level. We'll go over it when we hit the charts.
We'll definitely go over Solana. Robin did not eat another sandwich.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he said, is he okay? Did he know that? He is okay. He's fine. Just he needed some extra time off, so we gave it to him.
No, I think so. He used the slicer.
But he's done out of vacation, Rocco.
He used the slicer that you showed the other day.
He is running out of paid time off, though. So, Rocco, he's going to have to, we can't pay him next time he takes a day off. All right. So, guys, you know how we start off today. You know how we start off the show. We give you some funny. Now, this is the third day in a row that I'm giving you guys a life hack, okay? Today's life hack is brought to you by your favorite dog. Now, you might be walking out in the rain. You might be walking forest. It rains a lot in Georgia, right? And you might leave your house with your dog to walk your dog, and you forgot your umbrella. Instead of trying to rush into a store and pay $20, $30 for an umbrella, there is a life hack for us. Then, well,
Let's see.
you just pick up your dog and there you go. Your dog is your umbrella.
Dang,
No way.
it's messed up.
It's not a dog, it's a rug.
It's a rug. Exactly.
You're going to use it.
Rugs. Also, life hack. This is actually a really, really good business idea, especially on Sunday. So check this out. So it's a husband daycare center. Need time for yourself? Want to go shopping? Leave your husband here. They got tailgating. They hang out. So
yeah.
Anyways,
We have a couple of friends that will love that.
yeah. I don't know why this was so funny. So this is a cat eating dragon fruit, but just look at his face. Kind of looks like the
Oh,
Joker.
wow.
Very Halloween.
Yeah. What is that? I don't know why that was so funny. Okay. Do you have any animals for us?
I've got 2 dogs. They're they're both Australian Shepherd Border Collie mixes. One was born blind, one was born deaf.
Oh shit. Were they rescued?
Yep, yeah, we got them when they were puppies.
Oh, cool. All right.
They're good.
I feel like
dogs.
every time it's just me and you, I always ask you some personal question. Like, I don't know. Anyways, I feel like we're getting to know each other.
Yeah, I mean, I can share a picture of them. Maybe tomorrow I'll get one ready if the
My
chat wants to
father-in-law's
see a
got
picture
a-
of my dogs.
Australian Shepherd. That thing. So we're at my father-in-law's house, and my kids are running around, and the dogs. So you know these animals, they're shepherd, right? They herd the sheep, and so they nip at the heel. And so this dog was nipping at my daughter's heel to get her to move into the living room. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, they're definitely herders.
Yeah. Now speaking of herding, things are hurting in New York, and well, this is a day in the life of New York, and so the crazy things you see there.
All right. Oh, no, come on.
no.
Nah, man. Why did you show that? Oh, that makes more
What?
sense. No, there's a green screen right there. The microwaves?
Oh my God. And then in honor of Las Vegas, we have the Aces, Las Vegas Aces. They won the championship last year. And well, Mark Davis, the owner of the crappy Raiders, you think my dance moves are bad? Okay, first of all, what is this haircut, bro? Like, what is the haircut? Like, his dad, Al Davis, right? Man, when he was in his like 40s, 50s, the guy had some swag, you know? He had the glasses, he looked good. What is this? Crappy mustache, weird bowl haircut, and then don't even get me started on the dance moves. So far as you've seen my dance moves, right? Who's better, me or Mark Davis? You can be completely honest here.
Hey, you know what? I think you're a better dancer, but he might have us. You said he's the owner of the Raiders. I mean, he does own a football team. You know, I would trade being a good dancer for
his bank account
for owning for the Raiders any day.
So I don't know if this is true anymore, but prior to moving to Vegas, he was the poorest owner in all of NFL. So there you go.
Wow.
Still a multimillionaire, potentially a billionaire though, which is good.
British owner. That's weird.
Forrest.
Yeah, I mean, hey.
I was pretty upset when I saw this yesterday, man.
What did you say?
Elizabeth Warren sends a letter to the White House claiming crypto is a national security threat being used to fund terrorism.
The US dollar is I hate to even laugh at this because it's so true, but who was it that sent $6 billion to Iran that was likely used to fund terrorist organizations?
That was also the White House.
Yeah. I saw this. I believe they tracked a whopping $2,000 worth of Bitcoin that was used to fund. It was like $2,000. Like, okay, yeah, that's the problem. Clearly it's Bitcoin and not the billions upon billions of dollars that we've sent to these countries. Yeah.
We talked about it yesterday. We shared a I think it was an article or something where the Hamas essentially was telling people months ago to stop sending crypto because they were getting their wallets frozen or blacklisted. So when and I said this yesterday, but it's like blockchain is literally a transparent public ledger. You can go on there at any time, anyone can, on any time. Everything is recorded forever. It's recorded, and it's recorded in a decentralized way. It's not one person, two people. I can't contact the node operator or the validator who validated block number 7,565,000 on Ethereum and say, hey, man, can you change the transaction? Can you take it away? Can you? No, you can't. It's literally public and it's transparent. So for me, I don't know how you feel, Forrest. I feel like they're at the point where they're kind of grasping at straws now. Like, is there any legitimate reason for these guys to call for a ban on crypto? Does this tell you that they're essentially at their wits' end? Like, it's almost over for them? And it's just the last few people who have to either get on the wagon or leave that are kind of grasping at straws?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think they are, we have a very anti-crypto administration, a very anti-crypto SEC. Eventually, I think that will change. It's just a matter of time. It's really just a matter of time. You see, and what's funny is like you see BlackRock getting on board. You see them. For me, I really think that Bitcoin. I won't get too into it. I really think Bitcoin's like they kind of been forced. Their hand has been kind of forced to jump into the Bitcoin trade. Because if gold skyrockets, but gold starts getting expensive, and gold is like the recession trade, so to speak. Well, they've got gold ETFs, they've got that market covered. But what happens if Bitcoin outperforms gold? Well, they need to have all their bases covered and be have their teeth sunk into the Bitcoin market. And I think it's only a matter of time before everybody has to start hedging their bets. You look at the U.S. government; they own 200,000 Bitcoin. They were supposed to sell 40,000 Bitcoin in 3 sales, an additional around 40,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year, and they haven't sold any yet. And it makes you wonder: are they holding on to it for some reason? Why haven't they sold that Bitcoin yet? Do they think that maybe it'll appreciate in value and it could be a good asset to have in the future? I think it's just a matter of time. They'll change their minds eventually.
I think part of it's going to be they're not going to have a choice. But we'll see. Yeah. It's interesting you brought up, are they saving it? Do they see something happening? I mean, for me, if I was the U.S. government, right, you got to assume all the money printing, all the debt you're in, at some point, the dollar and fiat currency is going to collapse, right? Out of the 5,000 to 10,000 years of money, the last 50 years have been the only time in history where money has not been backed by something, whether it's seashells or gold or silver or whatever. Insert here. It's the first time that money's been able to be printed out of thin air without anything backing it. I think we can all agree that's going to come to an end, and it's going to be an ugly come to an end, but it's going to happen. So if I'm sitting here and I'm the U.S. and I'm the government, I'm like, okay, how much longer do we have a hegemony of the dollar? The dollar is still the world reserve currency. We can still print money at a breakneck pace without seeing hyperinflation. Let me go ahead and print some of that money and buy some Bitcoin, some gold, some silver, some whatever else you might think would be a good value to be used in trade in the future. But, apparently it's above my pay grade. So there you have it. And then we had this. So Jerome Powell did speak today for us. And I want to share this tweet from the Kobayashi letter, which I say this all the time, I share, but these guys are awesome when it comes to macro. So highly recommend you guys follow them. Summary of Fed Chair Powell's comments today on October 19th. Additional evidence of strong economy may merit more. May merit rate more.
Yeah, they messed it up there.
Come on, guys. I'm over here shilling your page. Get your stuff together, Kobe-C guys. Anyways, additional evidence of strong economy may merit more rate hikes. I think that's what they meant. Return to 2% inflation will require below trend growth. Committed to sufficiently restrictive policy, which means they're probably going to hold their rates over 5% for a substantial amount of time. May still be meaningful tightening in the pipeline. Summer inflation data was promising, but September was less encouraging. And the Fed is still committed to their 2% inflation target. More importantly, the Powell said the Fed wants to balance too much versus too little tightening. Raising rates too high risks a major recession. A lot of people believe we're already going that way anyways. Once that, people always talk about the yield curve inverting, but no one really talks about when it uninverts, right? When it reverts. And that is typically when we see that correlation start to flip back over to where it's supposed to be. That's typically when we see recessions happening. Forrest, for me, there's really nothing new here, but anything stand out in Jerome Powell's speech today?
Yeah, I mean, I ultimately think that I think to some degree he likes to leave it a little bit open-ended. It does give them the option to hike rates one more time if they feel that it's necessary, but I doubt that they're going to actually do that. I actually have not checked the futures on how they've changed since his speech, but we have 12 days or 13 days technically until the next meeting, and now we've now gone from I believe there was a 13% chance of a rate hike this month to now a 99% chance of no hike and a 1% chance of a cut, right? So the market's now factoring in the slight possibility of a full-on pivot where we cut. And a lot of that's probably related to treasury yields moving up very, very high, rates continuing to increase. I mean, I've got a pretty bleak outlook on the economy. I do think people should be very cautious moving into 2024 when we actually see a Fed pivot or a Fed pause followed by a pivot. We usually see a snap back in yields, so yields start crashing, bond prices start to go back up, and then you see a lot of liquidity flow out of a weak economy, weak equities, and move into those treasuries or gold, right? So I do think that the Fed pausing and potentially pivoting is something that people need to take very, very seriously. And I'm more and more in the camp of hard landing. As bleak as that sounds, I think people should be aware and should factor that into their risk management strategy and try to figure out where crypto fits in all of this, because it's potentially a solution. But crypto still trades like risk assets, for the time being, or Bitcoin still trades like a risk asset at times. So I think the door is really open. I think how this relates to Bitcoin is relatively uncertain right now. You could see Bitcoin trade like a store of value in line with gold, or you could see it trade like equities. And I'm very open-minded to upside for Bitcoin. I'm very open-minded to downside for Bitcoin. And I know that's not incredibly useful, but I think until we see how hard BlackRock pushes this narrative of Bitcoin being a quality flight to safety asset, until we see that happen and how the market reacts to that.
But isn't it already happening?
Degree of uncertainty here.
But can't I argue that that's already happening? He's publicly going on interviews and saying the words are coming out of his mouth. They've already filed for an ETF. What else do you need to see for you to be like, okay, BlackRock is pushing this narrative that Bitcoin is a flight to quality. Eventually we're going to hear Bitcoin is a flight to safety. Right? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, it really just depends on if the market buys into it or not, right? It's one thing for him to get up there and say that, but when it comes to like real liquidity outside of just retail liquidity, which I don't think there's going to be a ton of retail liquidity coming into the market, because I do think that the average consumer is maxing out their credit cards right now. We haven't even seen unemployment spike yet. And I think where the liquidity for this risk off trade is going to be coming from is institutional, right? I think there's going to, are the institutional level funds going to be rotating capital into treasuries and or gold as their risk off stance? Or are they going to actually be convinced by Larry Fink and some of these other, people, these other fund managers and asset managers filing for these Bitcoin ETFs that Bitcoin is indeed a risk-off trade? And that, to me, is one of the biggest uncertainties in crypto right now. Is I genuinely don't know if that institutional money flows into Bitcoin or not. I think you can make a strong case for it, but I can also see a scenario where if stuff really starts to hit the fan, people being historically, especially these large institutions with a lot of liquidity, being more comfortable in the gold trade. So I think you can make an argument either way. I really do. But it'll be interesting to find out. And trust me, as somebody who's in crypto, I genuinely hope that Bitcoin does become the risk-off trade. I want to see Bitcoin become the risk-off trade. A lot of people, think I'm a Bitcoin bear or that I hate Bitcoin. I don't. I like Bitcoin. I like crypto. I'm bullish on the long term. But for this year in 2024, I think Bitcoin is kind of in that weird transition phase where a lot of people are in between on, is it a tech stock, or does it trade like a risk asset in tech stock, or does it trade like gold? And it's just been, it's a little uncertain right now.
It'll be interesting to see. And I tend to agree with you, right? A lot of the liquidity, I would say a majority of the liquidity is going to come from institutions, not retail. You brought up credit cards. I want to show you this. Excess savings in the U.S. continue to drop sharply. Total excess savings are now down from $2.3 trillion to $200 billion. 2.3 trillion to 200 billion. The bottom 80% of households have zero excess savings. Zero excess savings. The bottom 80% of households. This is by far one of the fastest ever declines in excess saving, as total credit card debt crosses above 1 trillion and total household debt crosses 17 trillion. People are feeling the pain of high inflation, but according to Paul Krugman, hey guys, yeah, we beat inflation at no cost. No cost. Nothing bad happened, Can't even pay for your tire pops. Don't have enough money to buy a new tire. That's okay, guys. We beat inflation. Nothing happened. Complete joke. I know it seems like a lot of doom and gloom, guys, but for me personally, listening to this, looking at all the macro stats, you guys know I'm big on macro. I enjoy looking at macroeconomics, and the more and more I see what's going on, how people are spending money, the credit card, the credit situation we're in, the government printing money, people ditching the dollar, the U.S. I mean. Is there any better outlet than cryptocurrency, right? To make blockchain, making things more efficient, making things more integrated. You have projects like Chainlink and Cosmos and Quant that are bridging the two worlds together. You have an asset like Bitcoin, who has a finite supply, that is the most decentralized public network in the entire world, that you can move millions and billions of dollars for a fraction of the amount of money you would have to spend doing it on the traditional rails. It's just, things look bleak on macro, but us that are here in the space now, I think we're going to reap the rewards massively, because eventually everyone's going to have to come around. When you're at a point where everything you're doing, you swipe your card, it goes through a blockchain. You don't even know you're using a blockchain, but you are. And look at those projects that are going to benefit from it. Your payment rail projects, your XRPs, your XLM, a few of the other ones. And so for me, I know when we talk about certain things, it might seem bleak, but we share it so we can tell you guys, this is what's happening, and you're in the right place at the right time, because the entire crypto ecosystem is going to be lifted, because eventually we're going to get off of this fiat standard. We're going to go back to a commodities-backed currency or moving value, not from paper, but from something that you can that's tangible or that you can see. And I think that thing is going to be crypto and Bitcoin. And so I'm pretty bullish there. So we got 133 viewers, 66 likes. Guys, hit the like button, please. I beg you. Don't make me beg again. I don't like begging. There's only certain things I'll beg for. And likes, I don't like begging for them, but I will today. Now, Rocco, pull up my laptop. We got a CMC here. Coin market cap. We are currently sitting at, look at Bitcoin dominance for us, 52%. 52% Bitcoin dominance. This is the highest we've seen in a while, with 24-hour volume ticking up a little bit over 40 billion, and the total crypto market cap at $1.08 trillion. Bitcoin seeing a little bit of a pump, 1% on the 24 hours, up to $28,654 for us. I want to stop at BTC. A lot of people, we had Army Piper on the show on Tuesday. He said 27.4 or 27.7 is the number. But I just recently onboarded some fiat onto Coinbase. I'm looking for a good entry on Bitcoin. I know you're not giving me financial advice here, but I'm being a little selfish here for us. What are some potential levels I should be looking at for a bounce off of support?
Sure. Yeah. We'll go to my screen here. I'll share my chart. So what we do have on the Bitcoin 4 hour here is actually a pretty bullish pattern, right? So I know, I'm a little bit cautious right now. I do have a bleak outlook on the U.S. economy over the next year, but these macro things can take a long time to play out. And in the meantime, you do have some positive news coming down the pipeline, potentially with a Bitcoin ETF approval. We saw just the fake news approval caused a massive move in Bitcoin to the tune of about 10%, right? And it was very quickly proven that this was fake news. So, when the real thing comes down the line, you'll very likely see Bitcoin put in a 10, 15, 20% candle pretty quickly. So this is a series of higher lows, right, with higher highs, right? Very, very basic market structure, but we have expanding volatility. That expanding volatility can oftentimes lead to a very big move. What I mean by a very big move, it could be 10, 15, 20%. It could be a move back up to 32K. It could be a move to 35, 36K that we're winding up here for. So for me, if you're just wanting to trade this pattern, if you're looking for a kind of a shorter term move here, I would personally be looking for a move back into this 27.5 to 27.7 margin pressure level range, or down to this trend line. Now, I will say you kind of have this other trend line here that could come into play and kind of overlap with this level here. But this 27.7 to 27.5 range could be a pretty decent support level to be bidding in the short term if you want to bet on this expanding volatility pattern continuing to push Bitcoin up. Now, if you're looking for a better entry, a cheaper entry, what you want to be waiting for is for the bad scenario to come into play where we break this trend line. We start breaking this trend line, we're looking at 25K. We're looking at a return to the bottom of our range. And if I zoom out here, maybe to the 3-day, the 3-day chart, we've got a lot of lines on the chart, but this guy right here, this kind of 25K, and I'll make that a little bit bolder, this kind of 25K level that we've tested a few times, first as resistance twice, and now as support twice, right? We're looking at, I'll zoom in because I know the lines can kind of be difficult to look at here. But if we break this accumulation funnel or this accumulation cylinder, we break that trend line, we're looking for a return back down to this trend line. And that's a reasonable place to bid. But then keep in mind what we've actually put in. And I'll actually move to a cleaner Bitcoin chart here so as not to confuse anybody. But we look at this 25K level, right? And if we break down below this most recent trend line, this accumulation funnel that we're putting in, and we break down to 25K, what does that look like? That looks like a big head and shoulders, right? So 25K would be a reasonable range low to bid, right? But you'd want to be very careful here because if we break down below 25K, that's the scenario where we're putting in 23K or 21K or 20K, which are all reasonable possibilities, right? But 25K would be your kind of first line of defense if we break this trend line. That being said, like I mentioned, the current state of this pattern that we're in currently is in fact a bullish pattern. We have an uptrend forming, right? And until that trend actually until that trend goes away or is broken or invalidated, we have a series of higher lows, right? So I want to make Bitcoin put in a lower low, right? Put in a lower low, break 26.6 before I'm willing to turn bearish in the short term, right? So in the short term, I'd say I'm pretty bullish, right? I do think that we could come down here in the meantime to like 27 and change, 27.5, 27.7, and put in another higher low on this trend line. So if Bitcoin does this tomorrow and you're like, oh, I thought you said you were bullish. Well, yeah, I'm still bullish on just kind of this general pattern here. But I do think we could get a little 5% correction or whatever it is. I'll tell you, yeah, about a 5% correction back down to this trend line. Right. And then if we break the trend line and or make a lower high, that's where you need to start taking the idea of further downside more seriously, at least 25K. And then if we break 25K, right, could have worse downside. Now, as far as targets go, we do have this big margin pressure level bundle at 31K. That's been our resistance. That's been very difficult to push through, but it's also our range high. And we've also moved past our mid range here and made support on top of it. Let me, we won't take too much longer here, but if I go to this, parallel channel tool, it will help us find our midpoint very, quickly and easily. We'll put that at 25K. You can essentially see, and even if I widen this up a little bit and include the top of the range here, what we've done is essentially tagged our midpoint, jammed through it, and as of the last couple of days, we've been putting support on top of our midpoint. That's a really good sign. As long as we're holding that midpoint and we don't come back down below that midpoint, it becomes pretty likely that we actually rotate back up to the top of our range. I know we've got a lot of resistance at 30K, but a move to the top of this range here between 31 and 32K is certainly in the cards. It's certainly a possibility. So, as far as whether or not you want to be a buyer up there, I don't want to be a buyer at 32K. In fact, I'd be looking to either open up some shorts or take some profits if you're a shorter term minded for Bitcoin and you're not looking to necessarily hodl for a very long period of time. We break through 32K, we're in a really bullish stance. I mean, breaking through this range to the upside would be very, very bullish. But just keep in mind, 31 to 32K is very strong resistance. Taking a little profit there, if we see a rotation back up to the top of the range, wouldn't be the worst idea, in my opinion, especially for kind of shorter term traders.
Boris, let me ask you this question. So we saw that scam pump off of the fake news about the ETF, right? But okay, so example, XRP news comes out, summary judgments in their favor. XRP pumps up to 80, 90 cents, but loses it all and comes back, right? We see Bitcoin get pumped up to 30K, but it doesn't lose all of it. In fact, it retraces to that midpoint you showed and actually builds support on top of it. What does that tell you from a psychological standpoint? Is that of any significance, or am I maybe kind of thinking too much about it?
Yeah, a couple of things. So for one, we were already kind of developing an uptrend, and what we're seeing there is actually a continuation of the uptrend. We already had put in some higher lows and some higher highs. So, when you had that kind of random grayscale news where it just kind of came out and we pumped and then we fully retraced, well, Bitcoin was already in a very sideways locked zone. So you basically just had a full retrace and continuation sideways. Right now, we haven't seen a full retrace from that pump, but what we have seen is a retrace to the general trend. And that what we're seeing is trend continuation. Also, along with that pump was very large because it washed out a lot of shorts. We had a lot of short open interest built up, and it all kind of had to close and got squeezed. So it was a really big short squeeze off of that random news pump. And, that short open interest can take time to build back up. But right now, just trend continuation is what we're seeing. We're seeing this really nice uptrend. Somebody's allocating to Bitcoin. It could be Michael Saylor. It could be somebody else.
It was me.
It could be.
It was me.
Yeah. It could be these asset managers that are realizing they need to take positions. It could be institutions that are realizing, hey, these ETFs, are very likely to get passed, and Bitcoin is a pretty solid trade into that Bitcoin ETF approval. So it's probably just we're probably 60 to 90 days away from an ETF approval, I would guess. I think the next deadline is like January 15th at the latest. And you see the SEC is communicating with these ETF filers, right? BlackRock, I think, and Fidelity and all these other ETFs have kind of refiled with some amendments in their plans because of feedback that they've received from the SEC. Yeah. So it's not like the SEC is not working with them. It's pretty likely that these things get approved, and I think the market's wanting to kind of price that in.
A lot of people are pointing to Gary Gensler answering questions 2 days ago, saying they're seeing a change in tone. I don't know. Also, I heard it was Gary Gensler's twin brother's birthday yesterday. So happy birthday. I think is his name Rob Gensler? Rocco?
I'm not sure.
Rocco, will you look that up for me? Guys, what's Gary Gensler's twin brother's name? I think it's Rob. Why do the people I don't like have Rob in their name? Joseph Robinette Biden, Rob Gensler, Gary Gensler. I mean, it's a sign. I think we got to get rid of Robin, guys. Just kidding. We do have so out of the rest of the top 10, we do have Ethereum at 1564, XRP under 50 cents. I did mention Solana had a pretty big pump. Looks like it's retracing a little bit, still up 5%, 5.5% over the 24-hour, still up 17% over the last 7 days. Cardano stuck in the mud, 24.4 cents. Doge and Tron round out the top 10. Who would have thunk, huh? Tron. And then moving on to the Bubs, the crypto bublés. Hex up 9.7%. Injective Protocol. Forrest, you know anything about Injective as far as in depth or anything that are you bullish on?
I don't know a ton. I believe originally they were a derivatives, decentralized derivatives exchange similar to DYDX, and then I think they pivoted to be their own chain. I don't know if they're an L1 or an L2, but once they made that pivot, they moved up in value quite a bit and have been running pretty hard. L1s and L2s get much larger valuations than applications do.
Yeah, and this is a $713.5 million market cap, and his name is Rob Gensler.
The most important thing is his net worth is under 38 million.
He's 100. Yeah, his net worth is 138 million.
Hold on, 2007.
2007. Inflation, guys. Forrest, real quick, can we look at a Solana chart only because it's the one of the top gainers? We're obviously not going to look at Hex, but Solana 5.7%. We know all the FUD surrounding Solana, but it's seemed to perform pretty well compared to the rest of the markets, even potentially Bitcoin.
Yeah, so you can kind of see this general range that have got carved out here with all of our margin pressure levels and risk reward levels, and we just jammed up into that 2560 level, right? So all we're doing here, for all Solana is doing here, is it's continuing to put in higher lows and higher highs. So you had this low made around the FTX FUD, right? And it came in and it reclaimed this level and broke the downtrend, and then it made a higher low. And it pushed up and rocketed up into our $24 resistance. That $24 resistance has actually been really tough to break through. But the good news is we've now broken through the $24 resistance where we saw all these margin pressure levels. And as long as we're coming back down to retest it, right, it can then act as support, right? So what we want to see is we want to see $24 turn into support. In the meantime, we did just jam up into 2560. 2560, if I zoom in here, guys, this is just really, really difficult resistance to get through. If we get through this and put this behind us, that's a really good sign. You have a 2x long margin pressure level, a 2-to-1 risk reward level, a 4x short margin pressure level, a 4x long margin pressure level, and a 2x short margin pressure level. Basically, the incentives for shorts to come in here is very, very high, and the incentives for longs to continue buying up here is very diminished and very low, right? So this would have been a good trade for anybody looking to just kind of short Solana on the pump today or up to 2560. That being said, be careful because Solana is in this same pattern of expanding volatility, right? Higher highs and higher lows. It's trying to jam up and try to take out the top of its range. The top of its range, if I go to a cleaner chart here that doesn't have all those margin pressure levels and risk reward levels mapped out on it. We got to the daily here. we do see a very bullish pattern here. And this is an ascending triangle. An ascending triangle where the top has been around $25.60 to $26. That's our range high. That's the level that we need to take out, turn into support, right? And then the target is this pre-FTX double top, $38, right? That's my target for this. Now, if we also zoom in a little bit to the 4 hour, we also see another really bullish pattern. And I'll go to there we go. We'll go to the highlighter here. This is make it a little bit clearer. But you have this big inverse head and shoulders, right? And if you actually go to the linear chart, right? And I'm not a big measured move person, but if you take a measured move here, right? That's going to take us potentially on this inverse head and shoulders alone, potentially to $33. But then you also have a nested head and shoulders, right? This guy right here, of which if you take a measured move, right, that is what gets us to roughly $38, really close to that pre-FTX double top, right? So nice. You've got the ascending triangle, you've got two inverse head and shoulders, you've got multiple bullish patterns here, and potentially putting in, if we were willing to draw this out, potentially putting in over a longer time period what could be a bearish pattern, which would be an ascending triangle. If they move upwards, they're extremely bullish. If you get a busted ascending triangle here and it moves upwards, you see insane upside. But this would be a bearish pattern in macro, and we could go up to hit 38 and then fall that back down, and that would be not too big of a surprise for me. I think $38 attacking that liquidity from this pre-FTX high of $38 would be pretty logical. I'd like to see that get taken out, and then I think Solana could come back down and maybe give some good entry points for a future market cycle. But right now, I just think we're in a hated bear market rally for Solana, and it's looking for a breakout to $38.
All I heard was the bull market's confirmed. Guys, if you're a fan of Solana, put a 1 in the chat. Also, let's get an Ola train going. In honor of Rob not being here today, I want to hear an Ola. Let's do a roll call. Let's get an Ola. Rocco, will you throw us Ola in there?
An Ola?
Throw an Ola in there. On behalf.
You want to call some name or no?
On behalf of the Sin City Crypto team.
Call some name.
I'll call some name. I see. First name I see is David Motz. Why do I like this guy? Well, he's got my name. David, how you doing, my friend? Welcome. Web3 me. Oh, Jimmy's back. Jimmy, what's up, man? How you doing, bro? Miss you. Anyways, guys, if you're new here, say hello. Do you want to get into some of the news? Really, really curious for us to get your take on this. So, by the way, for the love of God, okay? If I didn't have it highlighted, this is what the front page looks like. Bitcoin Magazine, do better. Hire another chief editor. Well, like, what is this? You can't even read the writing. This looks terrible. Forrest, you agree?
Okay, put the highlighter.
Forrest said yes, he agrees. He didn't say anything, actually. I do want, so this is from Bitcoin Magazine. Lightning Labs rolls out Taproot Assets mainnet alpha. Bitcoin-focused company Lightning Labs has launched the Taproot Assets mainnet alpha daemon. Taproot Assets uses Bitcoin technology to handle, create, and delve into stablecoins and other assets. Think of it as a modern financial tool backed by Bitcoin's known security and decentralization features. It's about making it a global network for digital money transactions by merging Taproot Assets with Lightning transactions. The way we understand financial exchanges might undergo a significant shift, making them more in tune with Bitcoin's built-in liquidity. Looking back, Bitcoin's significant step into mainstream finance came when El Salvador recognized it as official currency back in 2021. Forrest, are we trying to do too much of Bitcoin? Should we just let it be what everyone wants and expects it to be, which is a hedge against currency debasement and inflation? Are we trying to do too much, or do you think Bitcoin could and should be, people try to raise it or elevate it or make it, better? I don't know. What do you think?
Look, I admire anybody that's trying to build in the crypto space and move, the future of money forward. So, from that perspective, I respect what they're trying to do. But to me, this is pretty illogical. I do think that Bitcoin is a network that is, whether it's designed to be that way or not, you can make the argument either way, but it is slow in comparison to other blockchains. And when you're building these, layer 2 solutions, or you're trying to bring other assets onto the Bitcoin network, it will take its toll in terms of potentially slowing down, other native transactions, or making them more expensive. But yeah, you're essentially trying to you're trying to use Bitcoin, and really the reason that they're doing this is what they highlighted in the article is they're doing this to tap into Bitcoin's liquidity, right? Bitcoin's a $557 billion market cap coin, where other layer ones like Solana are $10 billion. Ethereum, $186 billion, or whatever Solana is right at the moment. It's been bleeding under $200 billion now. Right. So what they're going after here is Bitcoin's native liquidity, and they're viewing that as the reason to build on Bitcoin. And I just disagree, because I think most of that liquidity is on Bitcoin to be in Bitcoin. That liquidity is not, in my opinion, on Bitcoin to trade into stablecoins or to do DeFi. Right. If you want Bitcoin exposure and you want to be in Bitcoin, you don't necessarily need to be, you don't need DeFi solutions, in my opinion, on Bitcoin itself. So I think that what they're trying to build likely fails. I don't want to say likely fails. I think it has a very distinct competitive disadvantage compared to the chains that are optimizing for this. And this is one of the reasons I'm bullish on Solana, is because it's just optimizing for fast transaction speed, right? If you want to be in Bitcoin, be in Bitcoin. But if you're trying to do DeFi, if you're trying to do decentralized derivatives trading, you've got layer 2, you've got Arbitrum, you've got Optimism, you've got Solana, you've got Polygon, you've got all these other faster chains that are kind of optimizing for this. And Bitcoin itself is just not optimized for this. It's a kind of a big engineering problem to try to tweak Bitcoin to be able to bring on stablecoins natively. I just think that they're going after liquidity, and liquidity will come to these other chains to do this DeFi stuff over time. And I think a lot of that liquidity, while you do have more liquidity on Bitcoin, I think a lot of that liquidity is sticky, right? It's sticky towards Bitcoin. People are less likely to trade their Bitcoin for stable coins and go into DeFi that's built on Bitcoin. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this, but maybe they prove me wrong, and the best of luck to them. I appreciate and respect anybody that is trying to build in this space, because it is important for people to try these things. It really is, because who knows? Maybe it will be useful, and maybe it will work.
I agree, and we constantly hear the narrative of this is not what Satoshi wanted, and Satoshi. Or you see these ETFs and the people that speak out about it. No, Satoshi didn't want this. Satoshi's vision was peer-to-peer, okay? That was literally his vision. And it's already not that. It's already not just peer-to-peer. People are using it to hodl, and they're using it as a hedge. So that's out the window, okay? If Satoshi was here now, what would he have said? Would he have wanted an ETF? I don't know. But all I know is you want mass adoption. You want massive liquidity. You need stuff like an ETF. You need stuff where people in the regular world who are not in our little crypto circle yet have access to the same products and services in a way that they're comfortable with and used to. So miss me with that ETF is bad and get out of here. The dumbest thing I've ever heard. For me, I think there's so many great projects out there, layer 1s, layer 2s, roll up, ZK, whatever the case may be. Just I think for Bitcoin, what it is, the speed, the decentralization, how hard it is to mine, I think just leaving it the way it is, and I understand the whole liquidity thing, but I think that's going to be taken care of with CCIP and Chainlink. I just think that the way Bitcoin is perfect for what people are starting to see it as, which is a flight to quality, a flight to safety, a hedge against stupid politicians and governments who just print money into oblivion and debase our savings year after year after year. So for me, sure, give it a try, but I would be completely happy with leaving the Bitcoin the way it is. Let the thing run itself. Let the code do its work. Let the miners do their work, and let people see it for what it really is. But that's the beauty of being open source and decentralized, is anyone can add value to it. And so that is good. Miguel Costa, he said something. He said, scroll up a little bit, Rocco. He said, can you guys support a sinner and go to my ex, Mr. Miguel, and show me some love? So Miguel, pull up my laptop, Rocco. We are on your ex, my friend. We are currently following you. And you know what? We're going to go ahead and tweet your, I'm going to go ahead and tweet this out for my friend Miguel. I do agree with them. You know, talking about building a stronger community and being there for each other. I think that's what community is about. You know, there's certain days where, you know, you might be down on yourself, or, you know, your portfolio might be down, or you get some bad news. I've seen a lot of people in here say that when everything was going down, whether it was Ukraine or whether it's going on in Israel, that coming in and watching a 1-hour show and conversating with people in the community is their kind of outlet. And I think that's really important. And so big shout out to all of you in our community. We try to be community forward, community first. And so if we can't support each other, then what are we doing? So go support each other. Go follow my friend Miguel, and go follow everyone else that you see in here. Also, let's follow this. You know, some people call me a conspiracy guy. I don't really care. It's just weird that the whole DCG and Grayscale Genesis has been going on a while. And if you don't know, Grayscale is controlled and owned by Digital Currency Group, DCG, which also owns Genesis. And just a day before the court is set to give its final ruling, because the SEC did not appeal, here we have a lawsuit against DCG, which could potentially impact Grayscale's chances of an ETF conversion, ? The source from Business Insider: charges filed by New York State against the owner of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust have prompted a fresh round of speculation over the future of the world's largest Bitcoin fund. DCG, its subsidiary Genesis, and crypto brokerage firm Gemini on Thursday were sued by the state of New York for allegedly defrauding investors of more than $1 billion. Travis Kling said, "This strikes me as enough for SEC to put GBTC conversion on ice, at least for now." You also have the likes of James Seifert, who's a Bloomberg ETF analyst, said the only relationship that could have impacted GBTC is that Genesis was the sole authorized participant, also known as the AP, of GBTC for most of its existence until late 2022, when it stopped being the AP for the fund. In this case, there was admittedly a closer relationship because they were sister companies at DCG. He concluded that with the current information available, he thinks there's no impact on GBTC's application from this lawsuit. Forrest, you think I'm being a little conspiracy here? I think the timing is a little weird. What are your thoughts? I know what Robin would say here, but what do you say? What are your thoughts on everything going on here?
This one's interesting, especially because I think DCG's even, recently it's come to light that they're at risk of getting some of their funds clawed back in the FTX liquidation, or the FTX from the FTX estate.
What a nightmare, bro! Just what a nightmare.
Yeah,
this whole
so DCG is. Yeah, DCG is not looking good for them. Now, the interesting part here is what James Seifert, says is like, they're, yes, DCG owns Grayscale, but Grayscale is technically, its own entity and was not necessarily involved in what DCG, the parent company, was doing with FTX and Gemini. So, yeah, the question here that I have that I genuinely don't know the answer to is, like, could DCG, before this ETF goes through, could DCG potentially, or ETF conversion of Grayscale, the trust, before this goes through, could DCG potentially be forced to go bankrupt and potentially sell Grayscale? Does somebody, and this is kind of getting into the conspiracy-minded thing, is does somebody have a target on DCG's back, and they look at that $16.7 billion GBTC trust as that's a lot of Bitcoin. It's like 600,000 plus Bitcoin, and potentially want to acquire it. at a discounted price and potentially slide their way into the ETF race somehow, or just acquire, an asset that holds a large amount of Bitcoin. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but hopefully these, this lawsuit doesn't affect the ETF conversion. James Seyffert doesn't seem to think it's that big of a deal. So, he's the expert on these things. So, hopefully it's not too bad. It's not too bad.
Yeah. I do want to give a shout out to Zoltan. $5 super chat said, what price does BTC need to be at for miners to make a profit? Think about it. If mining rewards get cut in half, if Bitcoin's price stayed the same, then they would lose 50% of the revenue. So it would have to double, essentially, right? But the more important question is, why do we think they will continue to mine after the halving? Here is the beauty of Bitcoin, is if it becomes unprofitable to mine and miners start unplugging, the difficulty drops. So now it becomes easier to mine a block and get the reward. So as it drops, until people start plugging back in, the difficulty will continue to drop until it starts to even out. Then it'll climb back up again. That is so astounding to me that it's all programmed this way. It's like Satoshi went through every single potential negative or issue that Bitcoin could face and said, you know what? Here, there's essentially an answer for everything. And so I hope that kind of answers your question, my friend. But if it does become unprofitable or less profitable and miners start to unplug, it'll get easier to mine the crypto. So the difficulty will drop. All right. Do want to give one last shout outs to channel sponsors, Cam's Blue Wire Tech. Visit bluewiretech.com or click the link in the description of this video to learn how they can help your business. Also, big thank you to Radix, our top layer 1 DeFi. They are a sponsor of this channel as well. If you want to learn more about their ecosystem, visit radixdlt.com. Also, guys, make sure to follow Forrest on Twitter at Sistine Research. We also have his YouTube channel pinned in the comment section. Forrest, anything you'd like to leave us with before we sign off?
No, guys, just seriously take risk management seriously. It's uncertain times. We've certainly seen a stronger economy. So if nothing else, even if I'm wrong about us seeing an economic downturn in the next 12 months at some point, look, it doesn't hurt to make sure that you're being financially responsible. Otherwise, everyone have a great day. I think I'll be on tomorrow in the regular Friday slot. So looking forward to that.
And what did I say? The Three Musketeers or the Three Stooges? They're back tomorrow. I think Rob will be back. Pretty sure he'll be back. Anyways, with that being said, Rocco. Straight up like Bitcoin and Solana, baby. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It was an amazing show. Make sure to come back tomorrow. Same place, same time. Bob Volvers here. System Crypto. We love you guys. Till tomorrow.
Sin Crypto. Everybody know we here for entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in. For big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I split the game, but they gave it. Name the coin that's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy the dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming, hola, till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I?